It's so time
Yeah,
to do it right.
to do it right. I mean, a lot of people don't.
To do it right.
So people don't, yeah. Those who do actually need materials, and attention.
This campaign, like,
All right, Madam Chair, it is 5:30. We are ready to begin whenever you guys are. We have a forum.
okay, great, fantastic. Small group today. Do we have anybody online?
No one logged in yet. We did have registrants prior to this, so I will. We have one. There we go.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ward 2 NAB meeting today on September 19th. I can't believe it's already fall. We're heading into the fall and winter months, so this year has been screaming by. So welcome to those who are online and welcome to our board members and our citizen that is here today. Nice to see everybody. We have a light agenda, which is nice. I heard that we don't have any development projects today, so we'll get to that in just a second. So we can call the roll. That would be great.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mimi Fuji Strickler,
Here.
Stephen Schwarzer, absent at this time. Patrick Fisher,
Here.
Tyler Kinman, absent at this time. Donna Keats. Here. Tyler Langdon, absent at this time. Stacy Shin.
Here.
Okay. Al Taylor.
Present.
Yep. And then, Councilmember Dewar will be sitting in later, if we're not done. And then I am subbing in for Tyler Shaw, staff liaison, Abigail Mayorga, and we have our intern here, Alexa. Perfect. You have a quorum of the Ward 2 Neighborhood Advisory Board. Madam Chair.
Thank you so much and welcome Alexa to the meeting today. We're so glad to have you. All right, any public comment today?
So at this time, Madam Chair, members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering for the following link, which can be found on reno.gov/meetings. And the link is as follows: $1,$4/$W, at this time, I have not received public comment in the room. If you would like to give public comment via Zoom, please raise your hand. And it looks like we have one public commenter at this time, Audrey Pillar, so I'm going to allow her to speak. Go ahead and test your audio, Audrey.
Yes, testing. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you loud and clear. You will have 3 minutes as soon as you begin speaking.
Thank you. I couldn't hear what you said in the beginning. Is Councilmember Dewar attending tonight?
Yes, ma'am, she will be attending as soon as she will be a little late. So we will apprise her and she should be coming in a little later.
Okay, well, my question is regarding the redistricting and is our community Ranchera still in Ward 2?
Yeah, that's a great question, Audrey. If you could provide your contact information, I can have our redistricting team reach out to you. I know that there have been changes to the website regarding the maps that were approved. Are you comfortable providing your email to me via Zoom? Outlook?
Sure, I thought I already did that when I signed in, but
Right, you're correct. Okay, so what I will do, I will look up your registrant or when you registered, and I will provide that information to you later today.
okay. And the second issue is that there was an election at City Council for a position that was supposed to be included as a representing a Ward 2 in the, it's not architectural review, but there's another commission, a planning commission. There was an election held at City Council before the hiatus. I believe it was in July. And Naomi Dewar put forward a commissioner's name that was not a resident of Ward 2, which is directly opposed to what it says in the city's description of who should be representing each ward. It says an individual must reside. My question for the group is, did that rule get changed? Or now with the redistricting, does this person that's representing Ward 2 actually now live in Ward 2?
Excuse me, Sal, I'll tell you for the record, that's outside of the jurisdiction of this board.
This is correct. This is true. Miss Donna, did you want to?
Oh, yeah, Donna Keats, Audrey, I listened to that meeting that you're.
Art, I'm sorry, through the online, it's very garbled. I can hear the host, but I can't hear much of anything else.
Let me try.
Thank you.
Had no idea, thank you.
Yeah.
I attended that meeting, and as I recall, there was a slate, there were 3 candidates, 3 different positions to be appointed for the planning commission at the same time. And there wasn't an option to do it individually, so it was like all or none. And that issue that you just mentioned came up. And
Yes.
I don't know if you saw that or not, but as I recall, there was a challenge about that, about residency, and then there were statements about that they could live anywhere. So I'm not sure what you're reading. I'm just responding. I'm not an authority. I'm just telling you what I remember from the meeting, just because you asked the question. And at that meeting, at the council meeting, the retort was basically, yes, I can. It's within my right to appoint somebody that doesn't live in the ward as a planning commissioner. I don't know what the legality is. I just know that's what happened at the council meeting.
Yeah,
So
I was there and heard that.
Oh,
Thank you. And I
okay.
can hear you now. So there was a gentleman that said this isn't part of your jurisdiction as a Ward 2 commission.
Right.
So Audrey, what I can do is I can connect with you to get you the resolution that has the requirements to be a planning commissioner. Additionally, I can connect you with the staff liaison who's in charge of sending the applications to the council members and their review, and they can answer questions regarding this.
Thank you. That would be very nice.
Of course.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Audrey, for your public comment. Do we have any other public comment?
This is when I would talk.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please.
My name is Connie Weber, and I'm the exalted ruler of the Reno Elks Club, and we are looking to expand our parking. We've gotten a lot of new members, and so I believe we're in front of the Planning Commission, and I just wanted to give comment here. We're looking for about 45 new parking spaces behind our building, but we're also talking about putting in 11 RV spots for traveling elks. And this is something that elks do. They go from lodge to lodge, and you can park there at an Elks Lodge at a very low cost. And a lot of people will travel across the country and do that. And so I just wanted to, say, it's a really nice thing that our elks do for our community. We provide a lot of public service and help our veterans. And we've had a particular concentration on the Children in Transition program the last 2 years. And, we're a philanthropic organization, and just looking for a favorable review of our planning permit is what you call it, I guess.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Donna Keats. I thought this item was pulled from our agenda tonight.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nobody told me.
I'm
Oh,
Connie. Yeah.
So we got a message saying that this item was pulled from tonight's agenda and that it would come before the NAB in October
Oh, interesting.
before it went to the planning commission. So do I understand you to be saying that you have a planning commission date right now?
It was put on my calendar, and I was told to be here. So,
That's fine. That's fine.
yeah,
I was still here when this was.
Come back in October.
Yes.
I'll come back in October and,
Thank you.
and so I'm just curious, so it will be on the agenda in October and then you would ask for comments when it comes up in the agenda? It wouldn't be during public comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, but we appreciate it.
With you doing your-
Thanks, this was fun. I know where you are now.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Connie.
All right, bye now.
Any other public comment online or in the sitting out in the room? We'll move on to approval of the agenda. Abigail, please let us know what changes we're gonna be making to the agenda today.
Yes, Madam Chair. So we will be not hearing B4.1.
Okay,
So that will be removed. They will be coming back in October. And we'll see Connie again.
I'd like, anybody like to make a motion to approve the agenda with item B41 related to the agenda today?
I will, I move to approve tonight's agenda with the deletion of item B41 from the agenda.
You got it? You have a second?
Sal Taylor, I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Agenda approved. All right, moving on to the approval of the minutes from June 20th. Did everybody have a chance to review those minutes? Are there any comments or questions here regarding?
Yes and no.
Move to approve.
After moved, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. Minutes are approved. Council liaison report. Abigail, do you have anything for us today?
One thing I did have, was the community cleanup for Ward 2, which is federal, for so the fall Ward 2 community cleanup is scheduled for Saturday, September 23rd from 9 a.m. so until the bids are full, usually from 9 to 12. And the location will be Manzanita Park. Will be Manzanita Park, and you can enter off of Lakeside. So this is a new location that Councilmember Dewar is spearheading, which is super exciting. You can can get rid of regular waste, e-waste, and hazardous waste to the cleanup event free of charge. If you cannot make this cleanup, there are more cleanups going on throughout the rest of the fall. And you can find those at reno.gov/community cleanups. And that is what they have going on. So it should be a great event. It's always very well attended, and I know that it assists a lot of people. So if you have any questions, I can answer them.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
I missed the very first part, date and location.
Oh, yes, yes. It's gonna be this Saturday, September 23rd, from 9 a.m. to 12, and the location is Manzanita Park. And it's first come, first served.
I can tell you what, this is one of the win-win things that
Yeah.
we do.
Exactly.
Okay, it's hard to blow this one and got a lot of favorable comments on it.
Yes, definitely one of our favorite events.
All right, thank you. So does that also serve as your staff liaison report today?
Yes.
Okay, great. So we'll check that out for item A5 and A6. Thank you. Okay, moving on to business items. Since we are going through the representatives in the fire department, right, so we're gonna move. And we have the department. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes. Very small too.
I know.
We're
all looking at you.
I come in and sit at the table.
Like ever.
I sat at the table last week too, and I was like, this is much better than standing up. So, Brian Dye, I'm a lieutenant with Reno PD. I think you're enough times where I probably should look a little bit familiar. That's my beard. They changed it.
Since some people may be hearing by Zoom, if you can keep your voice up, it would be right there.
We're about.
Yeah.
Want me to also come sit
And
over
we're
here?
gonna move first into it.
Oh, that'll work too. Good. Yes, so I went through all the stats for Ward 2 and kind of the top three. There was a tie, so I kind of did both, but destruction of property, stolen vehicles, vehicle burglaries, and crimes against person was kind of what I wanted to highlight today. So the stolen vehicles, if you look, the prior month we had 17, then it went up to 38 in August. So when I started reading into this, I don't know if anyone's aware of this, but on TikTok, there was like a viral thing in how to steal Hyundais and Kias. And so it was like a trend for kids to do this. And so a bunch of kids were doing it. And we ended up arresting 3, I think twice the same. They let them out and then we arrested them again. And so there was like kind of 2 hot spots. One was kind of centralized around kind of like Brinkby, Lakeside area, and the other one was kind of like South Meadows. So there was two kind of hot spots. And we found a ton of cars ditched in some of the apartment complexes, and we just assume it was probably more kids because it's a trend and it's dumb, but they like to do it. And then as far as the destruction of properties, I don't know what happened. I generally look for like themes and then try to give you guys some advice on how to avoid this. I thought eggs were really expensive, but apparently people are back to egging things. I looked and there was eggings of cars, eggings of houses with doorbell ditching. We had a little bit of fence graffiti. And then for whatever reason, people were getting mad at stores when their credit card was declined or they were asked to leave and they were kicking a window. So I don't really see a pattern for that as far as a preventative measure. And then if we look at the crimes against person, that is, my advice is not to road rage with people. So the kind of underlying theme, there's generally some domestics and other things in there. But a lot of it is some sort of road rage thing. And it ends up with someone either pulling a gun, a knife, punching you, crashing their car into you, things like that, or following you around. And then you feel like stalked and harassed. So just don't road rage if you can avoid it. We all have a bad day. No one likes traffic. But if you can avoid that, you never know how much worse the other person's day is and what they're capable of, especially with some of the mental health issues we've been experiencing recently. And then rocks. Don't hang out next to rocks if you can avoid it, because for whatever reason, people are throwing rocks, putting rocks in bags and hitting people. And
I mean, like pedestrians, hitting pedestrians? Rocks from bridges.
so someone was sleeping at a bus stop and someone put rocks in a bag and hit her in the head and ran. Some was kids throwing rocks down by the mall. Sometimes kids are fighting after school and then they end up throwing rocks at each other after the fight. And then someone picked up a rock after a road rage and threatened to smash their car. So kind of, it's weird, like it's a weird theme. I would love to say why, but it's just weird. People pick, I guess, because they're there and cheap and easy.
I blame zero escaping. We all have lawns.
It'd be a lot harder to pick a tree out of the ground, yeah. Or create,
rock yards.
yeah, maybe. Well, we'll make sure they're all little ones then, so it doesn't hurt as bad. And then for the stolen vehicles, I looked at a lot of stuff about that, and I think I've advised this ward, but I'll give it again. But don't have anything visible in your vehicle. A lot of stuff that's stolen is in like a secondary container, golf bag, construction box, things like that. Even like suitcase, luggage kind of bag, duffel bag. Those kinds of things are often taken. They rifle through them later and then take whatever's valuable and get rid of it. Also, if you have a truck bed, do not store valuable items in that, because that's not even restricted access. It just simply finds its way out of it. A lot of people had tools and things like that stolen out of truck beds. So out of sight, out of mind. And then some people, I've heard two different philosophies. And one car was actually broken into for simply a cable, which seems pretty trivial, just like a phone charging cable. But some people say I'm going to leave my car open and not have anything in it, because that way at least they won't break my window. But I don't really want people going through my car, so I'll just have nothing enticing visible and then keep it locked, or store it in the garage if you can. And then because people always ask, I have the street racer stats. So we have the last panel asked us, so I'll just bring it up because it's a simple just data point, but we've had 20 mate accidents, which is a significant injury and or fatality. 15 of those are fatal, which actually goes past our homicides. So we've had 14 homicides year to date and 15 fatal. So it's more dangerous to drive or walk around while intoxicated than it is to do other bad stuff, because it's rarely like just a random person. It's usually people engaging in other illegal activity and then things go bad. But for our street racers, over the last, going back to August, so we have a team in patrol that kind of works like a modified swing shift with the Vader, and they were kind of designed to help with a lot of the crime trends, and then the street racers being some of that trend. And so let's see if I can do some math real quick. Looks like 37 citations since August. 8 arrests, a bunch of warnings, and then it looks like 1 towed car. So they kind of work that, and a new tactic, or what we've been trying, is when we get information that they're coming to town or they start mobilizing, we come in and disperse them before they kind of establish a foothold. And that's been pretty effective. We do plan occasional larger scale operations, but those are generally like very labor intensive. We need a significant amount of resources to get into that, and we generally collaborate with other agencies in the valley. So we'll have NHP, Sparks County, things like that, and then they come help us, and that bolsters our numbers. And then a lot of people have different policies, like the state-run agencies tend to tow a lot more stuff than we do, and they're awesome to work with because they just don't care. They're like, all right, we're going to jail on towing your car. And they're like, wow, they don't have to ask. And so we have like a little more bureaucracy with the, hey, it's parked here, is this okay, kind of thing. So we have a little bit more like loopholes to jump through. It's not that it isn't justified, it's just we're a little more timid because generally on the freeway, it doesn't belong there. So they kind of have like a little bit different policies of, we just make it go away. So I think that's all I have for you guys. Any specific questions?
Yeah, I was looking, just to look at the year change, Ward 1 and Ward 2, okay. And how much, I have that increase robberies. Granted that as the number is small, but still they're kind of weird. So I was looking at this map of like the Ward 1 map, because they're stolen vehicles. Stolen vehicles, 50 stolen vehicles, so I went to see, well, where were they? And all these ones on Lakeside and Sunrise where I live and stuff, but are those like people parking at the lake and somebody swipes them?
So it could be either. So the way this report is run, it could be the initial theft or the recovery. So you could even have, so if I stole your car today and then I left it, I abandoned it tomorrow, that would be 2 reports. And so that's part of the problem of you see the spike, and we did definitely see a spike because of the Hyundai and Kia thing. And that wasn't every car, but it was like a significant increase. But when we look at that, if I steal it, like that's a very population dense area with all the apartments. And so there's tons of cars. You have the Peppermill and Atlantis right, close by. So those, again, lots and lots of cars in those areas. So it's target rich environment for the criminals. And then wherever they abandon it, they abandon it. And so generally the kids.
Oh, massive.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look down further south, off South Meadows, I think that's still 2. But if you look, that's the other kind of concentration area. So there's an apartment complex down there, and I can't remember the name, they changed it, but it's 1205 South Meadows. And we found several in that parking lot, and that's where those kids lived. So they were stealing them, and then they would, drive them for a couple days, and then they leave them. So they steal them wherever they steal them, then they, they're
It's really like 30%.
They're not bright.
Lots on the map. And looking at places
Yes.
to be-
And sometimes you'll see like a case number where it's a duplicate. And when I'm reading it, I'm like, I already read this. And so I'm like, oh, this is the recovery now. So sometimes it's the initial theft, sometimes it's the recovery. And then and sometimes you guys will see repeat addresses as well. So on the simple assault one, you'll see 6940 Sierra Center Parkway. That's Reno Behavioral Health. And so anytime, it's a housing unit for kids with behavioral problems and mental health issues, they fight. So every time they punch each other, we're mandatory reporters, they call us. So you'll see, I think there's 5 or 6, 5 just from that one place in the last month. And we go there all the time, and it's really annoying for us, but because it's a loop, right?
I understand.
So they can't, if they go to jail, they're going to say, you're incompetent, you need to go back to the behavioral center. And at the behavioral center, they're like, well, you can't just punch people without a consequence, so you have to go to jail. And it's just like, we're in the middle of this loop. So there's no, if you have an answer or a solution, I'd love to hear it, because I'll try and implement it. I can't come up with it.
For solving the problems.
Yes. Any other questions?
It's just, it looked kind of, just generic look at this, like, okay, well, everybody's got minus numbers and Ward 5 and Ward 4.
Yeah.
And Ward 3, and what's up with Wards 1 and 2? It's so much.
Yeah, and we're in the middle, so 2's in the middle as far as like overall stats right smack in the middle. 4 is generally one of the lower, and I think it's just because it kind of like starts getting out of town and you don't have like the same population density kind of issues we have.
I'm not sure
Yes, sir.
if you recall, but your last visit here, I brought up the Kia Hyundai theft issue because my daughter has a Kia Sportage. And she, living in Las Vegas, they were having a rash of,
I wish I would remember that because then I could have said, oh, this is happening.
yeah, they were having, it was a national story. And then
Yeah, it started in like Chicago, I want to say, or something like that.
shortly thereafter, I started getting reports from Las Vegas because I monitor what's going on down there because my daughter was at UNLV. And I saw that they were starting to steal the cars down there. I brought it up in the meeting, but it seems like there's a pattern for Reno, like with the sideshows. Those took off a couple of years ahead of when they finally started showing up.
Oh, yes, the delay.
Yeah, do we see that in a lot of crime trends? It takes a little while.
We do. It's very weird because it generally tends to migrate from like California east.
Yeah,
And so we'll see stuff and sometimes it's a month, a year, a week. And I was in the gang unit years ago and I would go to conferences in California and we talk about trends. And we had like party shootings. It doesn't happen so much up here. It's more by the university. But a lot of times like people would crash a party and when they're said you can't come in, like they would just basically open fire at the house kind of thing. And it was a big problem for us. And it was a lot of gang kids doing it. It wasn't always gang kids, but there was generally a nexus. And so I would talk to the, Southern Nevada and I would talk to these Southern California agencies and they're like, no, we don't have that. And I'm like, how do you not have, and they're like, I don't even remember that ever happening. And so it was just kind of like one trend exclusive to us. But then on the like prostitution ring side, we have another unit that does that. Sometimes we work together. They call it the West Coast Circuit. And so they kind of like Bay Area, sometimes they go to Seattle and then like Reno, Vegas, Southern California. And so they do like this loop and they're like nomads and they kind of set up a temporary shop and then just cruise along. So, I've seen some stuff where it's exclusive to us and other things where, yeah, and sometimes it starts the East Coast too, and then comes over. And this was a TikTok thing that was, I didn't know what TikTok was. I was like, I don't know what this is. And they had to like, my kids were like, yeah, that's like the videos. And I was like,
Yeah.
a boomerang. And they're like, oh, that's so long ago. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it's TikTok, not boomerang,
Yeah.
but
all right.
yeah. So if I knew how to prevent stuff, I would. I think we need to come back to old school where kids get in actual trouble. Kind of gentler now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lieutenant. It's always interesting and you come for all your great information. We appreciate that so much.
Yes, and if you guys have something like an epiphany later, if you get to Abby, her and Tyler, the other liaison, send me emails. I'll do some research and usually about a week or so I get back. So that'd be great. All right. Appreciate that. Guys have a good night.
Stay safe.
I'll try.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, everyone. Reports. B3, the presentation regarding Parks and Recreation.
Yes, Madam Chair. So actually concurrently occurring is the Parks and Recs Commission. So our director, Nathan Olia, they don't leave until 6, so he was trying to get through his presentation. But I've seen it 6 billion times, so I would like to give the information to you guys regarding his presentation. And he's always welcome for questions as well, so I'll provide his information. If anything is unclear. Get the camera screen. I won't do an amazing job as Pam.
Oh,
She's
certainly.
really great. But like I said, I've seen it a lot of times. We come to all the labs and it's great. So Director Ulia was coming to present on the City of Reno draft pros master plan, and that is just the big plan that encompasses what the city is going to do with its parks, its open spaces, and recreational use for the City of Reno. So at this point, he was looking for input from the community to what he wanted to see. So you can find that on this page here. So you can just go to cityofreno.gov and if you hit search, you can just put Parks and Rec and it'll take you directly to this page. And then you can hit the top right corner and here it goes into the Parks, Recreation and Open Space Master Plan in its entirety. So it kind of goes into what is a master plan. Again, it's our plan to better what we have currently and think to the future when it comes to our spaces. There's a cute little video where they kind of go into it as well. And then the current summer edition of what the programming is occurring at the different locations. And you can access those virtually. So Director Iliad would just kind of go over this. As you can see on the top bar here, there's a couple of different items that we're going to go over. So the first one is the planning process. So prior to there being a plan, there is a process and what they identify as the needs. So at this point, we were at finalize the plan. So, you know, this has been taking years and years of what does that look like, the vision, the guiding principles and goals, developing the plan, and obviously implementing the plan. So it kind of goes into the process of what was heard, what we want to see, and how we can get there. These were the recommendations. So if you click to see the recommendations, these are the recommendations that were given by community input, staff, and council. English, and then the actual plan, the full draft here, it's about a 500-page document, but you can access that, you can view and download. It is Control F friendly, so if you have certain key terms or whatever that you're looking for, you can put those in. I won't download it because it will take about 20 minutes, and then I'm on public Wi-Fi. So Director Iliad would just kind of go over this presentation here, and this is what he gave to all the knobs, and you're more than welcome to kind of look at it more in depth. So the city of Reno decided to partner with Stantec, and Citygate to develop this plan. Where we are, again, we're providing a baseline of park and recreation system and the existing conditions that we have to continue the planning process. And these are the different methods that were used to assess the needs and what was wanted. So demand-based, obviously based on what the community would like to see, resource-based, what the Parks and Recreation Department has, funding sources, all that type of stuff, and then standards-based, so the National Recreation and Park Association sets a standard for the US, across the US. So X amount of flat fields needs to be in this type of city based on its population, or pickleball courts and stuff. But when it comes to the national standard, obviously every city and location is different. So just because California, a park in California or a city in California has 10 volleyball beach courts doesn't necessarily mean that we need 10 volleyball beach courts based on the need and the wants of the community. So maybe our community is more into pickleball or tennis, so we want to see more of those instead of volleyball courts, whatever they think. And again, demand based on what the community wants and the stakeholders. So those are the three that they use to develop the plan. And again, you can kind of see the national standard where we're lacking, what these look like. And I'm not the subject matter expert, of course. So if you have any questions at the end, there is a point of contact. So I'm just going to briefly go over it so it's not time wasted, and where you guys can find the information as well. So what was heard, this is the community input that was given and the numbers associated with those. There was in the town halls, there was response from the community in surveys, and all those other things. So these are the top 3 feedback themes. So obviously improve current parks, trails, and facility maintenance. We have a lengthy system of parks and trails that some of them just need some beautification and some love and TCL to kind of bring them up to standard. One thing that Director Iliad does mention is that from the 2008 recession, one of the departments that was obviously cut was Parks and Recreation. So they are working to get that restaffed and up to 100% in order to provide these services. The second one was develop more trails, aquatic and recreational centers. We see that now with the Moana Aquatic Center that is being built, which is awesome. So these are a couple other things that we want to spread out as, you know, City of Reno is growing and we're going kind of this way, and we want to make sure that there's parks in different areas as well as trails and aquatic and recreational facilities. And then providing equitable access to parks, park programming and recreational facilities. Of course, like what's the good of our facilities if we don't have stuff going on and it's not lively and busy. Where we want to be. So this just kind of lets you know where Reno wants to go in the future. Master plan goals, so there's 10 of them, and you can go into them, but they just funding and resources is obviously the biggest one. Although we can have all these hopes and dreams at once, we need to find a sustainable funding source in order to implement these plans. General recommendations, so access for all, multi-generational activities, water recreation, comfort and safety in our urban forestry shaded canopy. I'm going to pause here because City of Reno just received a $500,000 grant to plant 300 trees in different areas throughout the city. So that was a big win that we just found out this morning. So that we're already on track to do that. And with Councilmember Dewar's Read program that I'm sure you guys are aware of, she's continuing to do that, and she's continuing to partner and continuing to do that. So this is great. We're already on track. The big five, again, just going into what that looks like, develop a sustainable and robust funding strategy. Funding is a big theme in this presentation. Improving the current things that we have now, programming and developing and activating certain spaces that are underused or that are used not effectively for the community. And then expanding the programming, special events and educational opportunities, and acquiring land for new parks and recreational facilities. One of the things that Director Uliat does mention is that land is not getting any cheaper, and in order to have parks and spaces, like, we need to plan for the future. Even if we just buy a lot or whatever acres, we don't have to develop that right now. Obviously, it doesn't have to be right now, but in the future, it would be good spots to have that land available for future uses.
We don't even have to know at this point what we might use it for.
Exactly.
As long as we're trying to get it at this price rather than price in 2 years.
Yes, exactly. So that is one thing that he's definitely spearheading. That when I heard this first presentation, I was like, that's a really good point. Like, so I just thought parks, pop up. So a couple different recommendations. So again, it goes into the top 5 a little bit more in depth. So different ways to find funding. So whether that's bonds, whether it's a terrible tax word, whether that's federal, state grants. And again, for example, the tree canopy one, that was a grant that we applied for. So those are definitely ways that we're looking to fund different parks and rec things. Perfect. And then budgeting even for more staff to upkeep the parks that we do have as we continue to grow. Recommended strategies, tree canopies there again. ADA requirements is another one. With these new improvements that we are doing to the current parks that we have, ADA is of the utmost importance. So that is done. And so it just goes into it. So we're going to see a variation of different maps. So the great thing about these maps is that it accounts for not only City of Reno parks, but regional parks, county parks as well, because there's no point in putting park and then down the street there's another park, but one's county and one's city. So you want to make sure that they're not like all stacked together, but that the region itself is having adequate number of parks and recreational facilities. So this is obviously Ward 4, a little bit higher portion. And he does go into, our lack of parks in certain areas, specifically going north and going south as they were developed. So it's just about upkeeping with that development. But it does note the different city parks and county parks, because again, we don't want to put parks where there's already a regional park or whatever. And you can see obviously here it's more condensed. You can see all the different parks throughout. And here a little south, so this is a little better. But definitely areas of growth and opportunity that Director Uliat is looking at with his team in the future. And here it goes areas of opportunity. So we see those big vacancies, like the nearest park would be, I don't know, like a 15-minute drive or whatever. Parks are supposed to be walkable location for residents to be able to enjoy. And this goes into the level of service and tree canopies that we see. So obviously a little bit more tree canopy in the centers. So the circles, so these ones, Reno existing parks. Which ones are these ones? So the blank ones, the orange ones, sorry, with nothing would be where we would want a park. So this is a new park opportunity. These darker ones right here are an existing park, and it shows you the radius of service zone, so walkability. So this means this park is hitting this area. So realistically, what's the criteria? The distance of the park? That's a great question. So it looks like they want to do a 1/4 mile service for existing mini parks, 1/2 mile service zone for existing neighborhood parks, and 1 mile service for existing community parks. So that's kind of the standard. And obviously community parks are the bigger ones. Neighborhood parks are kind of your smaller ones. I'm trying to think of examples. So I would say, so there's one here, this is Somerset West, that would be a neighborhood park because it's for the neighborhood, really, you don't go out of your way to go to that one. But I would say Idlewild would be a community park, that's where a lot of events, and so that's an example of a community. And then the mini parks are the ones that are like within developments that are just kind of like a patch of whatever. Yeah. And then again here, so areas of opportunity that we see here. And then the existing.
If I can ask a question at this
Uh-huh.
point, when developers come in and they're talking about they've got to be developers.
Yes.
I'm assuming at some point that one of the factors that gets taken into account is the possibility of saying, oh, you want this development, we think this is within this part of this opportunity area. Let's talk about that also.
So Director Olia kind of goes into a little bit more in depth about the funding source and what that looks like with developments, but he is fighting for a seat at the table when those developments come and they're like, we want to put X amount of houses, but there's no part to service that. That is one of his big goals, is to be a part of the planning process prior to going to planning commission and inserting those, whether it's a mini park or a percentage to go to a bigger park. That is one of his goals.
So let me ask you on that topic. I don't know if it's for the way Title 18 reads,
Uh-huh.
redevelopment, you're supposed to do this amount of, community gathering places.
Yeah.
There's a lot of provision for that. None of it's ever built. Reason being that all they have to do is go to the city for the coffers of the city. They don't actually have to build parks.
Mhm.
You don't have to actually create that open space. That's why we're getting so much development. Title 18 demands that it be there, or you can just pay us off.
Yeah.
But there's no hook that says the city then has to be responsible for putting in that open space and public engagement areas in those areas that the developer was supposed to do it. They just took the money and put it, I don't even know, they probably slam it in general fund instead of parks. I
Yeah,
don't know.
so yeah,
Because the general fund is, it's lost parking.
correct.
Yeah. So is the director considering any way to kind of maybe change that?
I do believe that's the bigger conversation that he's willing to have,
But
because he understands it, so the pie of the general fund, he still gets the same percentage that he got in 2008, which I don't remember off the top of my head. But obviously the cost from 2008 for a slide is not the same as the cost for a slide now. So
And the dollars go into the general fund, not specifically for parks.
Correct.
So development dollars that are supposed to be making these neighborhood other things that the master plan specifies that sound great on paper, which have not at all been built
Yeah.
probably once,
Mhm.
since the master plan was approved. And I'm saying it's just smelling like it.
No, I definitely think it's.
Really annoys me.
Yes, I definitely think it's on his radar, and I know he's met, as soon as he walked into the door, Councilmember Derek Rodman, and got those meetings and are having those conversations, and I'm giving this as a constituent, I guess, when I heard this, his presentation, and I didn't realize, the funding sources and what that looks like, and how he has to kind of fight tooth and nail to get those funding sources to have the parks, but he is having those conversations and beginning that process. And I think it starts with the planning process and being open and honest about what the funding source looks like to the.
There actually needs to be, I mean, you can pass that forward.
Yeah.
There has to be a Title 18 code change.
Yeah.
The demand for that money be allocated specifically to what the developers are supposed to do, and they pay the city instead of community.
Yeah.
Because living in the dense urban area, it's really expensive.
Fair.
So much development, and hey, where's this walkability, where's
Yeah.
this public space, where's this engagement, all these things we're supposed to have. We don't have them, we just get more and more what buildings. And it's in there, it's in the plan, it's in Title 18, but the loophole is they just give the city money. And nobody ever builds the spaces. And it's really running out of time to save the city.
Fair, yeah, I hope he's a big guy, so I think he's ready to fight. And like I said, when he gives the, I think it's much more, he can answer these questions, but I was definitely impressed. I've done multiple tours with him, in the different areas that are looking for two and work for specifically, because there's that question of equity, and what that looks like with how much is being developed in these two areas and where are the parks and what is being done for the constituents. So, but I will give you guys his information so that you can.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I was like, fully bother him with all your stuff, and I know that.
If he's a person who's willing to chat, I would.
Yeah, definitely a guy who's willing to chat, for sure. Perfect, and then it does.
I was thinking of a discussion the last meeting, we were talking about industrial area and then residential area, and they're obligated, just put a little park between them.
Yeah.
It solves the problem.
But nobody will, I mean, it's like, but still.
Well, I can hope.
No, I mean, there should be, but nobody will. We're just removing the standards and giving variances to the standards, and then here comes the special use permit to allow, or conditional use, whichever,
Yeah.
to allow industrial right next to single family. Well, It's okay. Passes every time.
Well, that's, and I'm sorry.
No, you're
taking
good.
up time, but that's what we see all the time.
That's what
We see good intentions, but the execution of what we get involved in here is where the game is. Once things get built, what does it really look like? That's an execution issue. And that's where we hope the people who are in place in the city are following through to the end of that execution. And I know sometimes we are disappointed at times, we'll just put it that way.
Often than not. Inspectors don't show up until after setback has been small. Oh, really? It's not as wide as it was supposed to be? Oh,
Guys, we need to get back on the parks topic. Thank you so much.
Perfect. And then it goes into a couple conceptual designs. So one of the big things obviously is the look of the parks and the uniformity with the signage and stuff. It's a small thing, but it goes a very long way, just making sure it looks good. We're taking pride in what our parks look like and having that uniformity across the way. So these are just different designs. This would be a mini park within a neighborhood. So just kind of smaller in those weird areas that you can't really put anything there. So it's kind of an empty lot. Again, conceptual design of what this could look like. No promises on that'll look like exactly like this. This is just kind of renderings. And this is an existing park, so really heights and just what it looks like with the little TLC. Same here for Miguel Rivera Community Park. And then examples of signage about how it could just kind of bring everything together. And this goes a little bit more into the river. So obviously we have the beautiful Truckee River that goes through our downtown. And that is just a completely different beast on its own, how we want to activate that space and keep the river clean and beautiful, but also accessible to our community because it is one of our great markers. Not all the towns have a river going through. So. And it would be a little bit different, but you can kind of see where it starts, the river corridor, going downtown, the current parks that are there, Barbara Bennett, Bicentennial, West Street, all the way through City Plaza. And again, just renderings of what it could look like one day, hopefully.
they're not doing that, right?
No, these are
Is
just
that
examples.
off the table or not? Is the online thing?
Oh, the bridge. I think it's just to like highlight it. It's not really,
Yeah, there was one of the proposed, there was one.
yeah. So that's one of the
Strongest comment.
more examples. The kayaking and stuff. So again, just highlighting our river. These are just examples. Nothing is set in stone. West Street Plaza, City Plaza. So again, different examples. And the number 4, expand and create additional recreational programming, special events and educational opportunities. So in that pamphlet that I kind of showed in the beginning, it does show all the different programming, but they obviously want to have a robust ongoing ones. And obviously engage the community more, just because we do spaces, we have our pools and everything. So elevating existing programming and providing new revised ones as well. Because things change. And then identify a par land for new parks, recreational areas and conservation areas. So this kind of is a map that kind of goes into it. And then there's a little comparison, because I know in the beginning we talked about the standard, the national standard compared to where we're at. So it does give you a breakdown of, what other cities are doing and what we would like to do. You have marks on I don't, oh, there. So you can see here, number of acres. We don't have a budgeted program for this open space. Other entities do. General fund, here voter approved. So this is definitely, again, a bigger conversation where it comes to legislation. Again, just going into it, recommended strategies, and that's kind of the gist of it. But this presentation is just an overview of this big document. And you can find it on the website and you can see it. And then one thing obviously that is very important is input from the community. It's like it's no longer available, but I can again provide you guys his information and any input that you would like to give will be well received. I think it closed today. I don't remember. I know that we were tight on the timeline, but he was obviously willing to hear all the input. And then this is good contact information. Karina is spearheading, so he's like his left hand, spearheading this project. And her information is also available. Karina Mercier. Yes, we can just send it to you guys in the email, yeah. And that's the gist of it.
Thank you. It's pretty comprehensive, probably, you know, you want to go and take a minute when you're at home and
Yeah.
look through the presentation again. And get a better idea of what they're.
We're back. Sorry, everybody. It looks like we lost our connection. Awesome. All right. Yes, we're back. I'm sure.
Okay, so moving on, item C, boards, commissions, committee member reports and announcements, anything? From anybody? Any future agenda items for October? Anybody have any thoughts, anything they'd like to see on the agenda? I'm sure we're probably gonna have quite a few development projects next month, there's no doubt about it, so we're probably gonna have quite a few, so.
Right.
And we'll probably be able to talk about our community cleanup next month as well. So, and the councilwoman will have a myriad of things to share with us, to be mysteries. So, okay, well, with that, any other public comments?
I'm sorry, we should probably put in, Naomi's gonna do a basic report on the redistricting. If she does that, that would be useful information.
Great, good idea.
Yeah.
And I know we're creating a FAQ sheet specifically for our NAB members because it affects you guys the most. So we will make sure to provide that the next meeting.
Super.
Awesome. And no public comment at this time in the room, Madam Chair. If you would like to provide public comment via Zoom, please raise your hand now. We'll give you a second. It doesn't look like any, Madam Chair.
Do I have any motion to adjourn the meetings? Motion to adjourn.
Well, second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody. It was like one of our whirlwind meetings, record for this award. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending, for coming in. Whatever, I appreciate that. And snow next month is probably gonna be a little heavier with subject matter, so.
What's the October date?
Yes. So October 17th, next meeting, same location, same time.
I will be traveling that week, so we will need a chair for that meeting.
Okay,
We would like to step up and volunteer.
we will reach out.
I will also be traveling for work.
Okay, perfect.
All right.
Well, thank you,
You
guys.
can do it online.
I'll be in North Carolina, so I might be late.
For Parks and Rec is in the chat. Right, and, to get that information.
We can get you on.
Good night, everyone.